everybody, welcome to Chapter 1, Lesson 2. This covers a few people that we need you to know and how they influenced the 20th century. They come in four areas, I think four, and I am going to sound very ignorant about many of them because I may not fully understand what they did, but I'll do my best. So just write down on the right hand side what they did and anything else you want to that helps it stick in your head. So, first up is Charles Drew. Charles Drew is in the field of science and medicine. So for the rest of these, in the first two words there, I'll try and give you their field and in a general way, so science or culture or art, and then I'll try and give you the more specific and then a more detailed thing that you have to know. So in the field of science and medicine, Charles Drew figured out how to store and ship blood plasma, or blood without the platelets and red blood cells in it. This is what allows us to do to give blood to somebody who's losing blood. So this is a key part of why the Allies win World War II, is they have somebody that can, or they had this invention that allowed them to help men who were wounded, or men and women who were wounded and losing blood. So Charles Drew is the person we'd thank now that we can draw blood. I could have Googled a much more graphic picture of this, but I went gentle on you guys here. So that person right there is getting blood drawn. So Charles Drew blood. That guy right there drew blood. That's what they call it. I put a needle in there. So to help that stick in your head, Charles Drew blood. And we have Robert Oppenheimer, the bomb Droppenheimer. This man was put in charge of a project called the Manhattan Project to design an atomic bomb, and they were successful in creating this, which is the reason why that quote that I have from there: "I hope they cannot see the limitless potential living inside of me to murder everything. I hope they cannot see I am the great destroyer." So he kind of had to wrestle with the fact that he made it a thing that is responsible or has the potential to kill many people, the atomic bomb. We'll look more at that, the use of that weapon, in Chapter 8 this year, but I want you to understand that Robert Oppenheimer, in the field of science and in the field of physics within science, directed the project during World War II to build the atomic bomb, known as the Manhattan Project. And what may be one of the most important inventions of the century, that little doohickey right there, those doohickeys, this is William Shockley along with John Bardeen and Walter Brattain. In the field of science, he's an inventor, worked at the Bell Lab team, invented the transistor, or co-invented the transistor. This is a key part of a computer chip. Before this, to store electricity or to keep electricity ready to use within a microchip, or within a computer, you had to use these large glass tubes, and it made it impossible to have a microchip for computers as we know them today. So thanks to this, we now have a microchip. It was able to make it small by having this transistor, which is what allows a microchip or a computer chip to use electricity. Invented the transistor, a key part of computer chip that conducts electricity. So you need this for computer chips and satellite communication. And there's this guy, Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright, in the field of culture, he's I guess we could say like the father of modern architecture, or organic architecture. But architecture is what he's known for, especially this building that I'm showing you called Falling Waters. This is a building that is one of the most famous buildings, most recognizable buildings in America. There we see a Lego version of it, and so I can explain more about this in class, but his style of architecture, if you think of big buildings with Roman columns and classical style, his idea was that the way a building looks and the function of a building should be the same thing. That you should build a building not to be elaborate and decorative, but it should look and function in the same way. So his building almost looks like a kind of waterfall. But wait, what do I know? Then this is Ansel Adams. Ansel Adams is in the field of culture. He's a photographer and environmentalist, known for his style of photography. I'll give you an example of that right here. So his familiarity with images and photography and nature means that he's able to capture the timing of things, waiting just right for the right time of day, and using a style of infrared photography many times that brings out colors that your eyes couldn't even see. So to help you remember that, here's the Grand Tetons and Ansel Adams. AA. I just think of like his name looks like mountain ranges. Maya Angelou, a poet and autobiographer in the field of culture and academics and literature, famous for her autobiography I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. The title comes from this poem she wrote. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. It's a book that you may end up reading in high school. It's a powerful book, but that's what she's best known for, as a poet and autobiographer, known for her own book. Martha Graham, perhaps could call her the mother of modern dance or contemporary dance. You have classical style of dancing that has these rules, and then you have her style of dancing, which is very well trained, but also throwing out the rules, which is, I guess, a common thing for most of the people on this page, is throwing out old rules and thinking in new ways. But the mother of contemporary dance. There's a quote from her: "Great dancers are not great because of their technique, they are great because of their passion." Years before, people would have disagreed with that and said, "That's stupid." And she says, "You're stupid." Henry Louis Gates, in the field of academics, he's a historian and African-American scholar. Famous for his historical work with African Americans, his PBS show Finding Your Roots, finding out where people came from. And then Will Durant, in the field of academics, is a historian and a philosopher. You can read some of his quotes here, but Will Durant wrote a lot about modern history, and instead of specializing in one area, kind of took all of history together and made it very accessible for people, even though most people would never have read all those books that you see there. So academics, a historian, a philosopher. Bill Gates, in the field of economics and computer technology, one of the founders of Microsoft, one of the most influential companies in the personal computing movement. It's the reason why we have personal computers the way we do. There's his Windows program down here that he helped to bring to the public, where you take what used to be just typed interface and made it an image interface. Ray Kroc, in the field of economics, developed franchising, which sounds like French fries. That's where you have you open up a chain of restaurants. They all follow the same model, and the most successful example of that was his, McDonald's. Ray Kroc. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, a retail store where you can buy things for that are very inexpensive. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. There we go. All right, have a good day.